Peace to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like the minutes to reflect that we had an executive session prior to the meeting tonight for personnel and legal issues. Any comments on agenda items? Anyone with comments on agenda items? Yes, Dick, can you come to the mic? Thank you.
I just had a question. It's not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda?
Not the agenda I saw. It's just a question I have in general.
Can we take it at the end?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, enrollments are in your packet for your review. Item 5, approval of minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory? Yes. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. DeVola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Next, item 6, business and finance reports. Items
Motion.
1 through 6.
Motion approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion, questions, comments?
That's 1 through 6?
1 through 6.
Yes.
Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory? Yes. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. DeVola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
No.
Mr. Clark?
Yes. Item 7, superintendent's report. We have one item there plus a supplemental.
Yeah, on the supplemental agenda, I would like to add item number 5, on the agenda, to read approval of the settlement agreement for student 12021.
Motion approved superintendent's report and the supplemental 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gregory? Yes. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. DeVola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes, but I must abstain from number 4, number 5 on the supplemental agenda.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
So, Mr. Clark, I just wanted to mention a couple things if I could.
Certainly.
Prior to moving on. I wanted to give the community an update on the computers. The computers are still not here. We are still trying to track them. We have gotten a donation, very generous donation through Williams, and they will be supplying us, they're on their way from Pittsburgh right now, with 60 laptops that we are going to give to our teachers, and then we are going to get their Chromebooks back to supplement the Chromebooks that are needed for the IC. And so that technology is on the way, and we're going to start next week putting the iPads at the primary and the Chromebooks at the IC in the classroom. So what we're going to start doing is training the kids as far as, or educating the kids as far as how to use these things at home in the event that we would ever have to go out. So we'll be providing some parent training as well, but we're going to start that process this coming week. And also, we are working on a plan for the second quarter in terms of returning kids to brick and mortar that want to come back, and trying to prioritize that and make sure that we can still, our hope is to still be able to do 5 days a week in K-6. That's what we're hoping. And we're working that plan right now and trying to gather the data necessary to come up with a good plan. So I just wanted to thank Williams and let you know that those things are in the works.
Thank you.
I actually have a question about that. The So when we talk about returning the kids, you're talking about the kids that are out right now doing 100% cyber?
Yes.
So at what point in time would we start talking about bringing the kids in 7 to 12 back at least maybe 4 days a week instead of, I know that there are circumstances it's not going to be easy, but when would we start looking at a plan to do that if that's an option for second quarter?
Looking at all options for second quarter, if that's something that the board wants to directly to look at, we'll look. But we're looking at all options for second quarter.
I mean, obviously, things can change. There's a lot of time between now and then, but I also recognize that if that were to be able to happen, that it would be something that we'd have to start planning for well in advance, because it's not something we would just be able to, like you say, like flip a switch and have it happen.
So it's not a problem with high school kids coming back, even right now. In fact, you're making that happen. So because you're able to socially distance. So it's not a problem with the high school kids, it's the K to 6 that it's going to affect. So right now, any high school student that is asking, requesting to come back, we're able to accommodate that.
No, I mean like to bring them back like 4 days a week, so that the kids are only in school, out of school maybe 1 day a week, all of them in 7 to 12.
We can't socially distance, but if that's the direction that the board wants to take, then you need to communicate that to me so that
Yeah, so I think we should look at what that would look like, because we obviously can't socially distance. So that's not a plan that I'm currently in favor of. But with the caseload in Wyoming County continuing to be as low as it is, I think we're going to have a lot of data over the next like 6 weeks. And I don't know, I know from a high school scheduling perspective, there's a lot of issues with that. And so, you know, if you could start those conversations just so we realize that, but knowing we would not be able to maintain social distancing if we chose that. So I'm not saying I'm personally in favor of that today. I just think it would be good if we knew what that looked like. But I do recognize that's a lot of work too.
yes.
For as much effort has gone into the cyber programs, it's absolutely better than nothing. But I've become, you know, anybody who knows me knows that I've never been a proponent of any of the cyber charters or anything like that, because I don't believe that a cyber education can compete with an in-person education. Now, we're doing good things, great things with the Canvas program for our high schoolers and everything, but it's still not a one-for-one substitute for in-class education. It's, for some kids, you know, maybe you can get to the 75% range, but there are a lot of kids that it's not even half, and their education is suffering. So I think when we get to the point that we think we can pull that trigger, we just need to do so with whatever research or whatever information we need to gather in advance, because you know, I know my kids aren't doing what they would be doing if they were in school, you know, even 4 days a week, even if it weren't 5, because I recognize that there's still going to be cyber and there's still going to be things that need to be done. Teachers have more of a load on their shoulders, and you know, you see like what other schools are doing. A lot of them have done things like that. So I'm in favor of beginning that investigation.
Yeah, I'd like to look at that model as well.
Sure.
Same here.
I think we'd all like to see kids back at school.
The one thing I will say, and I'll just interject, you know, the building, and I just mentioned it last time, building this Canvas platform from the ground up has been a really heroic effort. And, you know, there's been some questions and issues, but I've been really impressed on what I've seen. My kids' teachers have been super responsive. I've heard that from other folks. So, you know, thank you to the teaching staff for turning that stuff around. They're teaching, you know, especially full-time in the lower grades, and then the high school grades, they're alternating and getting back to kids those nights. So I think it's been a really great effort with everybody together. So thank you for that.
Yeah, they've done a great job under difficult circumstances, given the situation we're in.
You bet.
I think everyone, including most of the students, I think would rather be back to the situation they were in a year ago when things were more normal. But at this point, they're not. Okay. Committees. Mr. Pavola, I believe you want to say.
Yeah. Everybody's heard the news now.
Curricular?
Looking at the venue numbers and the spectators, I'd like to have an extracurricular meeting this coming Monday. Rob, are you good?
Yeah.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine.
Lori, 6
Yep.
o'clock?
Absolutely.
Mr. Bosher, 6? Obviously, the issue is that,
Here, I'll throw you.
yeah, right here. The issue is, we'd like to look at, like other districts, we'd like to look at how we can expand the capacity in our extracurricular, initially the sporting events. We want to keep it kid-centric and get their parents to be able to come in some fashion, but we want to crunch some numbers and logistics. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to have that meeting, discuss it, and then implement that plan, knowing that it's about the kids. That's where we want to stay. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Yes.
That's agreeable with me.
So we'll report back after Monday's meeting.
Thank you. Were there any other committee that met?
We had building and grounds.
Yes,
So
that's right.
Monday, we held a building and grounds committee meeting that had been rescheduled from the previous week. The building and grounds committee is recommending that we keep our facilities closed to community activities through November 1st. That's really only about 4 weeks away from where we're at right now. It's consistent with the plan that we've had in place from the beginning of the school year. We, as a committee, are planning to reconnect at the end of October to reevaluate the data and to be prepared to make a recommendation for the month of November. We also had a couple of updates. John Chapolsky shared some updates regarding some projects that are in progress across the district. We'll be wrapping up the roofing project at the Intermediate Center sometime over the next 2 weeks. We were awaiting some capping material that needs to go around the perimeter, and that has arrived and will be lifted onto the roof. Our objective is to do that lift on the weekend, so that's what we're working to be able to do right now. And once those materials are in place, we'll be able to wrap that job up pretty quickly. Our target would be to approach the next phase of the roofing project, which would most likely be the high school, and that would probably be spring to summer of 2021. We discussed a list of capital projects so that we can begin that prioritization process. That will go hand in hand with an assessment that has been done by an organization called TASD. They have come through the district and done an evaluation looking at where there are energy savings opportunities, and we'll be making a report to the district sometime over the next month, and we will take that information and we'll put that into the capital plan for the so we did work there.
And just one shout out there, the quality of those meetings with the plans that you and John have put together have been impressive, so thank you for putting that stuff together. I feel like we have a good direction on where we're headed long-term with buildings and grounds, so I appreciate that, and we have that opportunity with the bond offering to do some of these things, which should help us long-term.
Thank you. Okay, on to unfinished business. Last meeting, we discussed our face covering plan. Did anybody have anything else they want to say tonight about that?
Well, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago. I had thought that we would be coming back in tonight to see some kind of an idea of what would be an acceptable compromise on this to, give a criteria that you can't wear a gauze mask, you can't wear, I don't know, whatever other things, the mesh mask, you can't, whatever. That didn't happen. My motion is still out there that we revise the mask policy to include cloth masks. If you wanted to say with dual layers, if you wanted to say with ear loops, this is, it feels absurd to me that we somehow at Tunkhannock think that the difference from 5 weeks ago to today was 5 weeks ago they weren't wearing anything, and today we know better than the CDC, we know better than PDE, we know better than every other district around us, we know better than the EMA director that sat here last time saying that he saw no issue with cloth masks, but did have an issue with shields. We've gotten just a small number of emails, and they were all from staff, except for maybe one, saying that they would prefer that we kept it with the regular school-issued masks. But coincidentally, when I'm out and about and I see those same staff members out in public, or at their kids' baseball game, not baseball, but athletic events or whatever, they're not choosing to wear the surgical mask. If there is a health difference between the surgical mask and a cloth mask, there are going to be a lot of factors involved. As I said last time, the surgical masks that are gaping at the sides and don't fit well are not going to be anywhere near as effective for what the intended purpose is as a mask that was properly fitted to a person's face, much less the idea of it being more comfortable. You all heard this last time. So I thought we were walking in here tonight with some kind of a compromise that would meet the concerns of a couple board members that weren't ready to vote yes last time. A motion that we revise the mask policy to include cloth masks with ear loops and non-transparent, in which the nose and mouth are fully covered.
Second.
Have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I appreciate and respect, Holly, what you're saying, and I do. It is an issue that is hot out there in the community. I will just say what I said the last time. I believe our administration is asking for this. From what I've heard, I don't believe it's an issue with the kids. I think that these masks are safer, and I think the ultimate goal is that we want to keep, and I don't think we're saying that we're better than the CDC or the public health. I believe we're saying we're trying to make the right decision for Tunkhannock and our Tunkhannock community. So that being said, I will just say that I still believe that this mask, at least at this time, even with the data that we have, I know George is here, I still believe that we're doing the right thing. And nobody likes any of this stuff that's going on, but I still believe it maximizes the safety. And the ultimate goal is to get the kids back in school. I think if we have to, how do I want to say this in a nice way, I guess sacrifice this issue to maximize the safety for the kids, the staff, and the community, I'm still in favor of this. But that's it.
Anybody else?
The only new thing that I would say is I think about the second semester, having a single standard where we're not able to maintain social distancing. There are some reasons why that would be better. So in general, I'm not necessarily opposed to cloth masks, but as I said last time, it just gets harder to manage. And so ultimately, if we do bring kids back 7 through 12 full time, we likely would not be able to maintain social distancing. So if the standards changed, it just makes it a little bit more complex if we need to do something different in the future. So I think that's, what would sort of need to be factored in. So there's not going to be an easy answer to this. As Bill said, nobody likes any of this. I'm hoping whatever we're doing is clearly temporary, and then we can get back to whatever normal looks like at some point in the future here.
Thank you.
Holly,
Anybody else?
could you read that motion again, please?
Revise the mask policy to include cloth masks secured with ear loops, non-transparent, in which the nose and mouth are fully covered. I mean, I just don't want there to be a false equivalency here, because the surgical mask, the alternative to a surgical mask does not necessarily equate to unhealthy or unsafe. And the masks that people are choosing to wear, people who work here, people who are up here voting, what we wear outside of this building tends to be different for many people. And if it can't possibly be because of a factor where you feel like you're less safe, or that somebody else is less safe because of it. But, I mean, I think everybody's made up their mind, so I'm not going to continue to try and, however the vote goes, the vote goes.
I would just like to say that I think the board's done or not the board, the administration's done a great job of coming up with a plan, and it's a complete plan. And I think if the board were to insert itself, while I may or may not agree with it, that's irrelevant. If we insert ourselves and start tinkering with the plan, then, everything falls apart. It just isn't. It isn't even in the board's purview to do this. I mean, the administration sets the plan. Here's the plan. We should vote on it. We're a lucky board. We've got a medical doctor on the board, and he's saying this is what we should do. So I'm not quite sure where our authority lies to change what we're going to do.
Well, to be fair, the night that we did vote on the plan, I asked to have a discussion about this, and it was pushed to side, and then the plan was submitted without further conversation. So I did attempt to have that conversation as a board and with administration in public when it came out that when the things changed from the direction of the state, that maybe we needed to revisit what we were looking at requiring. When we went from having a kid needing to wear a mask for a couple moments at a time, or just on a school bus ride, to now requiring, we're talking about the piece of apparatus or PPE that they're required to wear all day long and breathe through. So I did want to have that conversation before that plan was submitted, when it was our job to approve it, and that didn't happen. So here we find ourselves, but again, wherever this vote goes, it goes, and I know where I'm comfortable sitting on it, so.
Anybody else?
So the only thing I would add is that I have done a lot of research, and that the studies that are out there about these masks as compared to cloth masks are that these masks are more protective to the person who's wearing them. And that's the difference, is that these masks, so my mask protects you, your mask protects me. This mask also protects me from the other person and from any kind of aerosol. So that is the difference that I've been able to find.
And these are the masks that Procter & Gamble has chosen to use, correct?
No, not the blue ones.
Not the blue ones, the ones that they sent us?
They said those are the ones they got initially, but they're not the ones they're using now
Okay.
because they
They're not the
prefer
ones
the
we're
white
making.
ones.
We have the white ones, that is true, but we don't have enough to be able to supply the district fully on a daily basis. So there has been a donation made. I had a follow-up conversation with my contact this week, and I believe that there will be another donation that will be made, but at this point in time, I don't have timing for that, nor do I have an exact number that would be needed, so, or what would be available. So, but they are available, yes.
Let me just say, this is the identical mask to the blue mask
That's
that
right.
Procter & Gamble makes. So there's no misunderstanding. It's the identical mask. It's
That's what P&G's
right,
making.
and it's the same thing as
standard.
the
We
blue
bought
mask.
P&G
It's the
bought
same,
those.
It's the same
it's like they just make them themselves cheaper than buying them.
That's right.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Dr. Cavola?
No.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
No.
Mr. Farr?
No. Okay, motion fails. All right, on the new business, the visa account is here for your review. Also, the monthly summary of Kelly Services, substitute teacher fill rate. I see that we've been filling, but we also haven't had a large need at this point. Item 3, we're looking for a resolution to approve payment number 2 for the middle school roof.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Shane, has John been able to inspect this? He was up on the roof the other day. Yes. Okay, he is okay with the work that's been done? Absolutely. He reported to me the other day that the quality of the work was excellent, and he was very pleased with the progress that they have made. Okay.
Anybody else?
I'd have to look. I think there's one more payment application for this project at the conclusion of this project. I'll double check on that, and I can let you know tomorrow, Bob, if you want to give me a call. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes. Item 4, looking for resolution to approve a grant, amount of $10,000 from Williams.
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mary
Yes.
Jean wrote that grant now. She's very good at writing grants. And we're going to use that $10,000 to provide scholarships for kids who need internet connection. So that's what it's going to pay for the hotspots.
Wonderful.
Williams has been very generous to us.
We thank them.
We appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Yes. Item 5, looking for resolution to approve stipulation to settlement agreements with Procter & Gamble on their assessment appeal. We have a motion.
Motion, yes.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes.
So what I will share with the group is, in fall of 2019, Procter & Gamble appealed their tax assessment. They have a number of properties that were a part of that appeal process. Over the past year, we have been involved in a number of different conversations regarding this matter that has included the county, that has included commercial real estate, a consultant that we secured to provide input on this process. We've jointly reached the agreements that are included tonight for your review. And I just want to point out a few things that are included in the agreements. First off, the agreement would say that in year one, there would be no adjustment made to P&G's assessment. So year one is the 2020 tax year, so the year that we are entering from a tax standpoint. So there would be no change in the assessment. In year two, there is an adjustment that is made to the assessed value of those properties, but they would also make a corresponding donation to the district that would offset the adjustment in their assessed taxes. So the result in year two would be no change in or total revenue to the district. In years 3 through 5, they continue to make adjustments that would basically, over the course of time, by year 5, the district would receive $517,000 less per year in tax revenue when compared to the baseline year. So this varies from what was originally proposed in that the initial assessment that they projected or proposed to the county was that all of that adjustment would be made in year one. So we have been successful in having them agree to extending that over a 5-year period of time. And the result of having those first 2 years have a no impact or a net zero effect to the district also reduces the total amount of reduction. The only other point that I want to just point out is that part of the stipulation is that there would be no appeal or reassessment of those properties between now and the end of the terms of the agreement, which is 2024. At this point in time, we've not had any indication that there would be a countywide assessment during that period, but if there were, the assessed values that are outlined in this document would hold, and anything that is done after that fact, after 2024, could be reassessed. So that's what you have before you this evening, and we're looking for a vote to see if the board would agree to these terms.
Now, this would affect the taxes for the county as well as the township?
That's correct.
And they agreed to it?
That's correct. That's my understanding, that they've been involved in the process and have agreed to the terms of this agreement. Whether or not that's been voted on, I don't know. I can't say that for a fact, but it was jointly worked between the county and the district to work with P&G's representation.
Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
No.
Mrs. Bennett?
No.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Dr. Cavola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly?
P&G's my employer, I abstain.
Mr. Whitener?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes. You got it? Okay. That's the last item on the agenda. Ma'am, you had a question or comment? Yes, please.
So Mrs. Arnold and Superintendent McPherson kind of touched on this already. I have a 6th grader and a 7th grader right now. So my 6th grader's going 5 days a week. My 6th grader's going 2 days a week. And I was wondering when I could expect him to go back full-time. And you mentioned that you don't have the space to social distance for the 7 through 12. Is that what I'm understanding?
7 through 12, we do have the space.
With 2
So-
days a week.
With 2 days a week, though.
Right.
Right, but I want to know when he can go back 5.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought.
And you said you were looking at the second quarter, but you seem to make that seem more like cyber students versus regular students who want to come back, like you know,
Well, we'll look at the plan. I mean, the board has directed me to look at a plan for second quarter that would be 4 days a week and just explore what that would look like. I can't say that I'm going to come back with something that they're going to approve. But I heard Mr. Burke say second semester.
Yeah,
and
I meant to say after the first marking
After
period.
the first marking
Yeah, sorry, I apologize.
So we'll present what those options would look like to the board. Right now, we're just trying to work it out, but we could not socially distance 7th through 12th graders if we brought everybody back 4 or 5 days a week.
so am I to understand that nothing has been looked at as far as that as of yet, like modular classrooms or anything
No,
like that?
We're looking at it now.
Okay,
That's what I said, like, we're looking at those things right now.
but up to this point, they haven't been,
Yeah, they have. This week, the last 2 weeks, we've been.
I mean, but in the month, so just in the last week?
No, the last 2 weeks, we focused on getting school open, and now we've been discussing what does it look like to bring kids back. Yes.
Okay, so you really couldn't tell me at this time then?
I can't.
I don't think
Okay.
any of us have a
Board
crystal
will
ball.
approve another plan.
And as far as the Canvas goes, when is that expected? Like, I'm sure the online, the cyber kids are up and running, but as far as I know, my son,
Your 6th grader,
my 7th grader,
your 7th grader.
is still, basically he's only getting taught 2 days a week, because on the days he's off, he's just doing the homework that was handed to them during that time. And when they get Canvas, I'm assuming it's not going to be much different, where he'll still only be taught 2 days a week, because it's not like they're going to be doing Zoom classes, correct?
So there is content on Canvas, and I'm going to let Mary Jean, because she's the 7th grade principal, I let her address that, because she's worked more with teachers about what it is that they're sending home right now.
So, you have in school today, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we just started sending on the Chromebooks, this week. Okay, so every child we know now has a device, so we really couldn't do at home with Canvas until we knew everybody had a device. So at this point now, they will be doing Canvas when they're at home. So they'll have the Canvas when they're at home work, and then they'll have the other work here.
Okay, but Canvas is still like, they read an assignment, they do it. It's not a Zoom lesson where they would be at the same time as the other
Those
students.
7th grade teachers, like our high school teachers, have a whole other group of kids in front of them.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
So, I mean, I'll add, because I mean, I have a 7th grader, I know your son, obviously. There's a combination, depending on the class, of, you know, specific YouTube videos or videos that they could have put together, like a Nearpod instruction with associated homework. So I know my kid just came home with a Chromebook, and so if you don't have access to Canvas at home through a regular PC or a laptop or something like that, make sure that
Yeah.
they know that, because that instructions has now started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I can chat after.
Are the Chromebooks still expected in October?
The last date I saw was November 1st. That was the last date I saw. But then they, I mean, they were, we put them out to, with the idea, part of the stipulation was, we said they had to be in by August 15th. So the company guaranteed we have them by August 15th. I doubt that. That's a nice thought, but I doubt that. What I will continue to do is really pound the pavement and try to find other devices. And there's another company that I've been in touch with that believes that they're going to be able to help us out. So we are working very diligently on finding devices. And then when those Chromebooks arrive, everybody will get a new one.
And can I say something too about the Canvas? Because I have a high schooler who uses it more than what you're experienced with. And there is definitely more interactive. I mean, it's not a Zoom lesson, but there definitely is lessons in there. And there's different things where the kids communicate and respond back and forth to one another. So it's not like they're just going to get a worksheet that they're going to do or something like that. Like, I don't want you to have a bad idea that it's going to be very plain. But it's something that I think you'll be happy with. There is definitely interaction, and the communication with the teacher is there, like the way to submit it, and then they respond back, they comment on assignments. And I mean, we've had great luck with the teachers, like things we're submitting during the day, they're getting responses back during the day. And if we have a question, we can email a question. And I mean, it's not immediate, but it's quick enough that we're still doing work during that time. So like, don't be discouraged before you start, because I think it's more than what you're expecting. And I mean, I hope it is, but we've had good luck with it. And we started it in 7th grade, and then we didn't use it really last year a lot, but we're using it this year. And it is definitely interactive with other students, even not in his specific classroom, but in that, you know, ELA is ELA, so he communicates with different. So it is nice, and there is more interaction, not just straight assignments. So.
Any other questions?
I know.
So I want to ask an administrative question.
Can you use the microphone, please?
So administrative questions, I have 5 minutes, right? So if I get interacted, someone could stop the clock if someone needs to interact back with me, take some of my time, right?
No, actually,
5 minutes.
actually, it's, there's no interaction if you read the front of the book. It's
Okay,
actually.
that's good. That's what I need to know. So
Right.
I need to know that. Okay, so there's no, but I'll still continue, and
I
someone's.
got 5 minutes for you, George.
Okay, so I'm going to start off this way. Initially, I told you guys about respect. Still got it. John was concerned last week that maybe my level of yelling or whatever was potentially, and that's fair, was potentially not showing respect. I'm going to tell you, there's still nobody up there I wouldn't have on my team. The level of intellect that's up there, whether it's professional training in some college or whether it's business, I respect everybody up there. My level of frustration is high, which got you last week. It's here again, because you were supposed to discuss something with Holly. That didn't happen. My frustration is for 3 years, I've been asking questions and had concerns that I'm not getting responses until now. You are literally wearing people out. I get told, go to school board meeting, you got something to say. I never get answered. I never get responded to for 3 years. A year ago, I asked you to make a logbook that if somebody has a formal question and it's a good question, log it. Tell me, I have a question, who's going to answer it? Bill Perbola. When's he going to answer it by? By the end of the month. If not, he'll call you. So it's logged. It's got a receipt. It's an important question. You know it doesn't get lost. There was nothing more important to you guys than you spent almost an hour on that, and you didn't even respect your own school board member and discuss it like you said you would. So I'm asking you, please, if people have questions, log it, receipt it, tell me who's going to answer it, and tell me, when it's going to be answered by. It just disappears into the ether. That's where we get the frustration from. You guys are our representative government. They are our administration, but you are going to approve and disapprove things. You have the authority, not them, okay? So now, that kind of took some of my time, and I don't appreciate it. That's my exact point, so I kind of used some of it. My first question, can the public, school board members or faculty members who have a question or a concern, can they please, if they formally ask you to log it, that you log the question or concern wholly into a log, tell that person who's going to answer it and when. That's my question. I'm going to come back to that. And I want that answered by somebody sometime, because it's going to be done through an attorney sooner or later. Number 2, because that's where my frustration comes from, John, and I'm sorry, but I still respect you guys.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, what is the statistical data that you're using to send us through this pandemic? What statistical, not case studies. Case studies don't work. Because if you have a case, we may never have 0 cases. We don't stay like this if we don't have 0 cases. What is the danger? It tells you in your first paragraph, the transmittal rate and the situation inside your district, you're supposed to tailor it to. If you read it, it's the first one. My third one is, I'm formally here requesting that you stop asking for documentation for people who do not want face coverings, because you cannot. It's unconstitutional. Between the last school board meeting and now, there's been case study. That's number 1. Number 2, I told you, it's in the very document that you said is guiding you. It tells you you cannot ask for documentation. It's the force and effect of law. So when I'm done here, I need your attorney's phone number, address, and fax numbers, and a way to file the injunction. Because the lawsuit now is just an injunction. But there's going to be other people out there. I warned you. Did anybody discuss this like I asked you last time to consider it? I didn't hear it even brought up. You were supposed to consider stop asking for documentation. There's going to be people who can't wear things. So you have to start respecting that. The same way that we have to respect handicapped people in our community without questions asked. This isn't going to go on forever. So start learning how to deal with people who say, I choose not to wear one for this reason. You can't ask for documentation. Have a good day. That exists. It exists right now. The injunction is going to tell you that. And it's there. It's in writing. But no one's doing the research, because if you didn't do a 2-week research on her, what's the chance that you guys are actually doing this? You're not listening to me. You're caught up in that 6-month program that you guys created, that you're so intent to follow, because it took 6 months of hard work, and I respect that. But be dynamic, like you keep claiming. Be dynamic. Change when you're supposed to change. An injunction is coming. I warned you last week it's coming. Now it is coming. You guys are being unconstitutional. You're not even following the very Department of Health and governor told you, don't ask for documentation if they can't wear it. And you're disrespecting that. You're literally breaking the proclamation, I'm sorry, the declaration, which has the full force and effect of law on top of the Constitution. So just somebody tell me, when do I get something? Does someone meet me after to tell me this is going to get done, that this got logged? Because she did it. She's a board member. She didn't get respected from the last meeting to now. Somebody tell me something, anybody, that I speaking to the microphone and into the ether and it's gone again for 3 years. That's where the frustration comes from. And that's where it sounds like not respect. But I'm not being respected when I got stuff at 3 years old and didn't get answered. Now we're in the middle of a pandemic. I asked a year ago, before the pandemic, to log important information so it doesn't go into the ether and disappear, that somebody owns and says, I got that one. I'll get you by the end of the month. If not, I'll extend it until I got answers. At least someone's got something. You are a representative government. We're literally in a state of emergency, mostly by man-made emergency now, but we're still in one. We're still in one. You guys are our only representative government. And when you have that breakdown, Bill, and you have a micro meeting on top of this meeting, you are literally the first thing. You're our first means of representative government, representing all taxpayers, not just scared ones, not just ones with comorbidities, but ones that say, let's get going. Because sooner or later, is there going to be a grand unmasking? Probably not. But we've got to start learning how to live with people who don't want to wear a mask just because they can't, don't want to, or what other reason. It's in the Constitution, it's in the governor's law. So this meeting here that he's getting ready to have is even another breakdown of the first representative government candidate, whatever small group from this big group is going to be you guys got to do well. Because the away side is away side, the field is the field, and the home side is the home side. They're all 3 different events. We take up 9 feet as a human being if you're trying to do that 6 foot. So every 9 feet, a person should be allowed. That's 1/4 of the capacity should be allowed in each one of those bleachers. You can put tape up, don't let them interact. Let the field do whatever the field wants to do, let them do, just don't let them interact. They have their own bathrooms, it's just like 3 different events. But I'll see you Monday. I still want to have that on the record, that's how I feel. Yep. Are we invited to the Monday? Sure. Okay. 6 o'clock. That's all I have. Someone raise their hand, tell me, when do I get any answers? Somebody, anybody? Holly's, anybody? Anybody tell me when I can get an answer? Let it be on record that this is happening. For 3 years, I've had stuff out there in the ether, and you wonder why people are frustrated. Now we're in the middle of a pandemic.
George, I'm not sure what you're asking me, so
I asked 3 questions. You want me to go? Can I have 5 more minutes to go over it again?
No.
Okay. So
was that meant to be disrespectful to me again?
No, I'm not being disrespectful. I want you.
So
you don't understand what I'm asking. I gave 3 clear things.
I committed to not engage in the banter with you again tonight.
No, I know,
So,
but here's my thing. I asked 3 specific questions. Are they logged?
What have you ever asked me that I didn't get back to you on?
No, I'm not going to go back because I will do that in person, but I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to banter, but I will go back on every single thing that I've ever done, okay, that I've ever asked for that didn't get done.
I can't speak for anybody else.
I know, but I just asked 3 questions. Here's my question. I just asked 3 questions. Who's going to answer them?
I can't do it.
No, but I just asked 3 clear questions. Who's going to answer them?
What have you asked me to do that I have not done?
I'll tell you another time, but this one right here, I'm asking the board, who's going to answer any of those 3 questions or do anything for me?
I can't do it.
Does it ever happen? Do people come to the school board meeting, have answers? Get answered, questions get answered, concerns get
all
logged?
the time.
George, they do all the time.
But I'm not, then why?
George, I respect you. And the time is up.
Okay, so my 3 questions I have.
I got to agree with John. I don't know exactly what you're asking. We answer the questions when the community, it's our community. We answer the questions to the best of our ability. And I have never heard of someone dissing a question and turfing it. I mean, Heather's always said,
does anybody,
wait, let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
When there's a question and we can't answer it, and our administration says, here's my number, that's the boss lady. She puts the number, this is my extension. We've never refused any answers. We don't come up with a log, George. I don't agree with you. I'm not going to log.
Do you remember me asking that,
George?
a year ago?
Wait. We're not going to keep a log. It's not necessary. We answer the questions to the best of our ability. If things change, we'll get back to resubmitting an answer to another question. We don't refuse anybody.
You said you answered a question.
We
do.
No one
just answered. So, but you're not allowed to engage, but no one's answering.
I'm giving you my answer. I'm not taking a log of the George Uhas questions. That's my response to George Uhas. I mean, it's in the, we put the minutes, you made the minutes of the last meeting with your comments. We put that in there.
Right, so that was my first question. Then, so then let's say you're not gonna do a log, you're gonna let things go into the ether like they've been, and I'll show you. But the next one was, what's the statistical data other than cases? Because we may never get 0 cases, so you can't stay like this if you have cases. You may have cases for.
We'll have that conversation. I'll talk to you about that.
All right, so you got that. And the last one was, when are we gonna stop asking for documentation for people who cannot wear a mask? Because you're not allowed to ask for documentation. So anybody can answer that?
You said you want the attorney, and I think we can
Okay,
give
so
you
we'll
the
use the
attorney.
attorney, thank you.
Anybody else?
I got one real quick.
Yes, Bill.
Just a reminder, could the administration remind the teachers that the children are supposed to get a mask break because all of them are not getting them, and that's unsatisfactory?
We did come up with a unilateral, an agreement as far as the mask rates, and if you would be more specific in private, I assure you that it will be addressed.
It's more than one, but
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd ask about that is if because we got an email about that, if folks are addressing that with the building principals or the teachers, and if they're not getting the response, like, I mean, that's unacceptable. And I'm unaware of that, because I've asked a bunch of kids, and I have not heard that, but obviously, maybe it's happening, and if it is, we just got to get it resolved. Because that's at a person level, because clearly the policy is to allow them to take a break, you know, so that should be,
wanna make sure
that
they
should be
get 'em.
easy.
Yeah, and honestly, if it's, I'm not doubting that you have data that I don't have, Bill, but I will tell you, when I'm in the buildings, I do see kids getting mask breaks, and actually, when we did the fire drill yesterday, we allowed them to stay outside even longer and just take the mask off, so, yeah. But if it's not happening somewhere, we need to know it.
Any other comments or questions?
Bob made a motion to adjourn before he left.
Second.
We're adjourned.